to Brotherly Discourse, where you don't have to agree, just join in the conversation with me, Oliver, and my brother, Simon. Today on the podcast, we have Blake Chmielewski. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Yes, so let's just jump right into it with, if you tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and then that kind of thing.
So I grew up central Minnesota, very small town. I graduated with like 180 people, very, very small town. I pretty much worked a lot of my family's business at a restaurant, mainly my whole life. And then up until after senior year, I joined the military and pursued that wonderful career.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you said you joined the military, what branch?
Navy.
What led you to join the military, specifically the Navy, and then also what was your role?
So why I specifically joined was because I think it was in spite of my family, because neither side had joined any sort of service. Mm-hmm. So I'm the first person to ever do it. So, and I initially had a contract for Spec War, which was, one of the contract was SEAL. So I was going to do all that stuff going on, and unfortunately things didn't kind of roll out that way. So instead I went to Operations Specialist, which is your radars, your computers, your navigation, how to plot, and all the kind of plotting on a ship and stuff like that. So
yeah, so kind of how was your military experience for the most part?
That's a loaded question. Yeah. So it's kind of your typical, like, oh, I went to boot camp, did all the boot camp things. Don't really remember much about boot camp because not a lot of people do.
Yeah.
As for the Spec War side of things, it was a little more intense speaking because it's more physical demanding and all that stuff needed. But then as soon as I shifted to Operations Specialist, it was more of learning very not making very marginal errors, if not no errors at all, because it involved us plotting a certain course. Slight minor error could mean running into a reef or a rock or something like that. And there's been loads of Navy history involving errors in navigation. Mm-hmm. There's been times where ships collided with each other and they didn't really know what was going on. So there's a lot of things that were entailing Operations Specialists. They're a very big part of the ship, and they have their own little command center pretty much, filled with a bunch of other people. Mostly those people kind of stay in there. It's all pretty much secret or top secret type of stuff, so it's nice to know where we're going also sometimes. But
yeah. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. So you enjoyed it for the most part, would you say? Or
I'd say a year and a half into it, maybe 2 years. And then after that, it kind of started to very slowly decline in a very bad direction.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so how long did you serve?
Specifically, I served 3 years and 9 months.
Okay. I have a feeling we'll get a little bit more into that here as we move on. Yeah, if you want to. Yeah, so I guess we'll move more into maybe how it's changed since you were in. So when did you join, and then what was that time frame?
So I joined 2019, pre-COVID, where it was during that time frame. I think it was still more of the mindset, like a lot of these young men who were still wanting to serve and didn't really have a lot of how do I want to explain it? They still were interested in the military, not like some people are now, versus some stuff going on and all things like that. But as for I don't know, it's a difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think we all know that there's been a change, like a switch kind of, and I saw it. I went for my basic training in 2023, and there's a lot of people there that you kind of just, you look at them and you're like, why are you here? You're not interested. You don't even have a sense of wanting to serve. So do we think that there's been like a cultural change a political change or maybe something even deeper with the young people that are entering?
I think there's definitely some sort of, I think it's more of a cultural, if anything, because when I was on ship after boot camp, so when I got deployed to my ship, I was seeing these people that were, coming to our ship during COVID and post-COVID, and a lot of them just seemed very uninterested, didn't know what was going on, no training at all whatsoever. I actually asked some people when they got to the ship, like, so what did you guys learn? And normally in Navy boot camp, you learn how to use the M9 and kind of everything about it, the operation, everything like that. Like, well, we didn't shoot. What do you mean you didn't shoot? They never actually qualified on their M9s until they got to the ship. During boot camp, we qualified for that, and we learned every single aspect, all the conditions, everything like that.
Yeah.
They learned none of that during COVID, which leads me to believe, like, either the drill instructors were scared of COVID spreading, even though they quarantined for so long, and during that time, boot camp was like your phase 3 type of boot camp, so you're well into it. Nobody should have COVID at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just a lot of people very uninterested and very not cultured in Navy culture, because it's very, Navy culture is like very, some people are very proud of it. Some people are like, "Hoo-yah, Navy" type of stuff. Yeah, it was very interesting to see that. So
Yeah, I just kind of like a personal anecdote to throw in here before we move on. Before I joined the Army, I had talked to a Navy recruiter, and he personally said he was all into like the Navy culture and like the Navy history.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the Navy as a branch kind of values their like culture and their history more than maybe another branch? I don't know if that's true or not, but
I would say yes, only because there is so much history involving the Navy with like back in 76, even 75, all the stuff going on. There's the USS Constitution, which is the sailboat that they could bring out once in a while. And definitely, like, there's very deep, heavy Navy traditions. One of them is actually stemming from tattoos, because throughout all of the military branches, nobody really had any tattoos, and the Navy traditions kind of allowed them, not I would say allow, or more inherited by visiting different ports and different cultures while they're traveling around, and they saw these tattoos, so they started just taking them or just trying to do them themselves. Like one symbology for one tattoo for the Navy is like an anchor, which means you join, you graduate boot camp. Another one is like a swallow for like however many nautical miles you traveled, you add a swallow and stuff like that. There's boatswain mates, the people that do line handling, they have sometimes tattooed across their knuckles like some like line handler or something like that. Like there's different things and different niches for each job in the Navy for different tattoos, which I found interesting when I was learning about the Navy.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. Like, that's something new that I've learned.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I want to take it back here just one step. We were kind of talking about, you saw those younger guys coming on ship after you were already there. How would you explain them to be like compared to the older guys or the guys that had been there longer and been in the service longer?
See, for me, it was so hard to determine because I only joined 2019. For people that have already been there way before, I got to learn some of the stuff they did, but I didn't get to learn too much because I also got introduced to these new sailors that were coming on. I was picking up some of the stuff they were doing, which is mixing cultures that isn't really working well for the ship, and morale was becoming very low. People were like just sinking into that negative kind of morale when these new people were coming on because they didn't learn anything. Like some of those older people were like, well, what's the Navy doing to these young kids, these young people now that are joining? Like, are we ruining our culture and stuff like that? So yeah, I definitely saw it firsthand. Like, normally like when you see somebody that joins, they're pretty like squared away. They're like very like to the book, like. And then they kind of learn slowly, like, oh, I don't have to do this anymore, but still I have to remember this. I quickly saw a bunch of new people that were kind of not doing that and definitely disregarding a lot of things. And I have plenty of stories about that too. So
yeah, and you bring that up, kind of how look, there's kind of a cultural divide there between those newer ones and the more seasoned guys, and how it was just lowering morale. And, we see now a lot with the new Secretary of War trying to kind of change this, kind of revert it back to more of a traditional type of military culture. What do you think it takes to kind of rebuild that, that unity again and, morale? And because, a lot of people are going to push back on it. So it's kind of, what do you think would be the best that could come out of the Secretary of War's efforts?
I think personally, history definitely needs to be retaught to some people, because our military is based off of history of all the things we have accomplished throughout any wartime, any sort of failure of something that we always learn off of history. It's definitely the direction of going back to traditions is definitely a good step in the direction where we need to be, but definitely there's going to be those pushback who are going to be like, well, I joined for X reason, Y reason, not for serving, which most people should join for serving though. Yeah. But some people take the benefits of it, which I've also seen too.
Yeah. And I even see it a little bit myself. They're really cracking down on certain regulations, whether it's, facial hair or, the weight standards, which I think needs to be enforced, way better than it is. Personally, a personal anecdote of mine that I'll add, one time I went in for my height and weight, and I weighed in 2 pounds over, but then you see these, and I get chewed out a little bit for it, but then you see these big people come through and, they're 40, 50 pounds over, and, they just get like a little slap on the wrist, and then nothing ever changes. So, I think stuff like that needs to be enforced way more. And then, there's some personal things that I get a little irritated with, more so like the facial hair stuff. I don't always want to trim my mustache or whatever, but, I think as long as people can understand why that's there, so.
And, to go off the top of body weight, I think most people are very aware Navy's very unfit. There's a lot of unfit Navy members out there, and there's definitely a bunch of videos, photos, and everything that people have seen. And it's sad to say, like, it definitely is like the I've seen so many E7s, so Chiefs, that don't care anymore. Yeah. They're just there like, oh, I'm an E7 now, I can do whatever I want. Yep. I see it, I saw it all the time. Never care about their body and weight and all this stuff like that when the PFAs come around, so the physical testing for us. Definitely they did not care. And during like the 1.5 mile run, they speed walk instead, and they are somehow able to pass. So definitely that's something I see across the Navy too.
Yeah. So you said you were in the Navy for 3 years and 9 months.
Yes.
So let's just jump right into it. Why did you get out?
So this was during COVID, which I'm sure most people know anyways, but during that time it was very difficult for most of us on a ship too, and we were just going to doing Zoom calls to check in with each other, and we stayed in the barracks. That's all we did. We couldn't go anywhere. And if we were to, we had to, which was it was dumb. We had to get permission to go off base to go grab groceries and stuff. Otherwise, we had to go to the on base store and do that. Which they're not very. There wasn't a lot of healthy choices there. Yeah. So, but shortly after some time, we were able to get back on ship. But our the retrofit. I'll go back into the step to just why my ship was where it was. So my ship was in dry dock since it was in 2016. I got there in 2019. It was still in dry dock, but it was in San Diego. I got orders to go to San Diego, but quickly changed after to Everett, Washington, where there was another shipyard it was going to go to. So you can imagine me being a new sailor, well, this kind of defeats the purpose of everything I learned now, because my job is very deployment heavy. I can't do anything in port. So, I made do with whatever it was. That ship didn't leave until 2023, until it was fully done and retrofitted and everything. So you can imagine I was very upset with where I was at. but because of that, it was because of COVID, the contractors couldn't do their work. I understand that too. But for us military members, the mandate hit. And at first it was like, oh, it's going to be like some people, like we won't do the whole thing, and like all stuff like that. And it hit heavy there was like 20 of us that were refusing to get it. And it hit heavy like, hey, if you don't do this, you're going to get dishonorably discharged. Because technically it was disobeying a lawful order. I've had chiefs, I've had first classes tell me, oh, you're going to get sent to Leavenworth. You're going to go to jail. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And they started to call us names like, oh, the unvax, or like stuff like that. Like all those names that we were called. And it just became very... I felt, I wouldn't say dehumanized, but it almost seemed like it was heading towards that direction. At one point it was, and people felt pressured into getting it, and some people were pressured to getting it too.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask. Like, do you think they were doing that to pressure you into doing it, just to like, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And little story with that. So there was 13, 14 of us that were left. And we get told over, so we were staying on a barge, remember we had 24-hour duty. We got told over the intercom, so the one MC for us, that all people, the mask mandate for our ship was being lifted. I'm like, okay, so that means everybody, that's not specific to anyone. So I have my mask off, all this, I'm not vaccinated or anything like that. Then the next day I get told that the captain wants to talk to us.
That being all the people who aren't?
Yes.
Okay.
That are not vaccinated. So we get called to the classroom, and the captain told us that they have no idea where they are in the process of us getting kicked out, essentially. She said kicked out, and we were like, you mean discharged, not kicked out, because it's not... Our choice is obviously what we made, so it's going to be discharged. And I will never forget what she said, which was, we asked a bunch of questions, and then she just said flat out and ended the meeting with, I don't know when you're getting out, nor do I care. I care about those that are wanting to serve. That hit me like a sack of bricks. And it made me think like, okay, so basically nobody cares about us, even though we made a commitment and an oath to serve in the military.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I don't know how making a decision about something that, you know, hadn't been tested, hadn't been, you know, put through trials makes you any less of a service member, of a sailor, whatever. Like that, that's not very good leadership at all. So, yeah.
Or even to put it in the sense of you were refusing it because you didn't want to serve. I mean, it's just...
Yeah. Like, I mean, I chose the military because I didn't want to go to school. I knew I was going to be in the military. Like, I chose the Navy because, and this is kind of funny. So do you guys know the Pearl Harbor movie with, like, the love triangle one?
I haven't seen the movie.
So it's it's like romance, whatever thing, but like I always watched it, but I only watched it during when Pearl Harbor happened. So there was a bunch of scenes about it and stuff like that. That's what got me hooked about the Navy, was like that part of time that happened for the Navy and how the Pacific Theater moved on after that. That's what kind of hooked me into the Navy, was all the stuff going on with that. So you can imagine a very young person was like, oh, I want to join the Navy, not a very big thing, and also growing up in the Midwest. So.
Yeah, that's true.
So now that, you know, we kind of talked about how it was received from leadership and whatever, looking back, do you feel your decision was worth it?
There was a lot of days I thought about going back, definitely after I left. I think it was worth it just because I stood up for what my beliefs were, and not a lot of people can do that. They kind of go with the norm of what people like, oh, this is the norm, so I might as well follow along with it, versus I don't want to do that. Like, let me decide for myself. And I feel like that's a lot of people now. They're kind of following what other people think, or like online or whatever's going on with that.
Yeah. Do you think that some people did get the vaccine just because everybody else was, at least in your experience?
Definitely. I know some people, which I respect. I respect anybody who got the vaccine. I definitely respect it. There was people that like just joined and didn't get it, like myself, or there was people that almost hit 20 years and they didn't get it.
Wow.
Which I asked some of them, which I knew personally, was like, why didn't you get it? And they're like, it's just not my belief. It's not their own beliefs, stuff like that. And then there's some that are like, I respect, like 16 years in. Well, I'm almost at 20, so I might as well just get it. Like, I've been deployed how many times, XYZ. I've had so many shots, XY, stuff like that. So I could respect that also.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, and like, I mean, you bring that up, and I mean, I'm really happy that the administration currently, they, waived that, and they said, we will completely like welcome these service members back, especially the ones that were that close to a full retirement. Because, I mean, it really is sad that people had to pick between a full retirement with the U.S. military or standing up for what they believed in. So, I mean, yeah, it's just, it was a sad deal when it happened.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that people had to choose between that. Like, that financial security or, what they believe in. They shouldn't have had to pick and choose, in my opinion. So...
Yeah, so that kind of leads to the question of, how did that entire experience shape your view of not just the Navy, but the military and, the whole federal government, really?
If I'll be honest, I felt backstabbed. Utterly backstabbed by everything. I was always told, like, people are going to take care of you, people are going to watch out for you, you're gonna be taught, you're gonna learn how to fall and get back up, and people are gonna teach you how to do stuff. To me, that moment in time when I was told it is what it is, and you're going to be kicked out, it was kind of like, so you're really not caring about your junior enlisted at that, and also people who've been in how many years. And it just felt like, it just didn't feel, I don't know, it left a bad taste in my mouth for the military for quite a while after that.
Yeah. So... as you said, you stood up for your beliefs, like you did that because that's what you believed was right for you. What did that teach you kind of about yourself and like respecting yourself, especially in a system like the military that's built on hierarchy and like obedience? Not really blind obedience, but just doing what you're told.
I questioned a lot of things because during my time of being kicked out also, I was tasked, I would say, for about 6 months of doing ship maintenance, which I felt was more targeted towards me because I wasn't getting the vaccine, and I felt targeted during that. And I was later told that wasn't the case. They chose me because I guess it was my time to do it, and it just happened to be around this time. But for the longest time, I felt like it was like against me. But as for learning for myself, like my own, like following my beliefs and not really going with it, it kind of drove me in a direction where I also follow the same mentality of like, it is what it is, but my beliefs are always going to be first, like priority one. Like I have somebody in my life I cherish very well in my life, but also I make sure I'm okay is priority one always, no matter what.
Yeah.
If family may be in distress, like something's going on, I'll be there, but I'm always going to be taking care of myself. And that's what I've kind of took away from that, was I need to take care of myself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious your take then on, a lot of people talk about it even now. They're like, well, these members of whatever, National Guard, this or that, they're not upholding their oath. They're, and they say all this stuff about tyranny, whatever. Where do you think with this, where does it cross, disobeying that oath you made to make a decision like you made? Because, I'm sure a lot of people at that time too, they're like, you're not upholding your oath. You should be doing this for the greater good or whatever. So I just want your take on that.
That's a good question. That's a very good question. So it was, now I got to really think about this.
Yeah, this one's kind of loaded.
Yeah. say that question again? Because I really need to process it.
I'd kind of tied it in with modern day too.
Mm-hmm.
You see it on social media all the time. They're saying, these National Guard members that are going into these cities, they're not upholding their oath, to protect against domestic, whatever.
Right.
But even with your situation where you made that decision of, choosing yourself over, the collective, let's say.
Yeah.
I'm sure at the time people were saying, this isn't upholding the oath that you took to serve. Where's the boundary cross there of like what our oath encompasses compared to, when can we say like, no, this is not right?
So I can relate this to a similar time during the Navy. So anthrax. So a lot of people refused that during that time, which I was told multiple times throughout COVID, like, it was just like anthrax. People denied it and they got kicked out, not honorably, and I think someone got kicked out generally or dishonorably too for that. But for how widespread it was throughout the world, not just specific members in the U.S. or however anthrax was going on during that time. And I get like the thing of like my body, my choice, that type of stuff. At the end of the day, for me, as long as I'm able to do my job in the Navy, I can still decide on whatever I want to do if I'm able to still uphold my oath of what I said. Now, obviously, the mandate was very... I think some people expected it kind of out of nowhere, like it just happened. But for me, I kind of expected it to happen because they're like, oh, the vaccine. We just made this new vaccine. Okay, I'm definitely not getting this because I don't know what's going to happen. And I already knew like military members and hospitals staff are going to get it. And guess what happened? Military and hospital had to have it. And for me, my buddy, who was in the Marines, who just got out, he got the vaccine and he didn't want to get it. And I never really talked to him in full depth about it. But then I asked him, like, so why'd you get it? He's like, he was pressured into getting it, pretty much. He didn't want to get it. Like, he's like, I wanted to follow my oath through and through. Like, how most Marines are. They're pretty heavy into that. But for him, he even questioned it a lot of the time, too. And unfortunately, because he got that vaccine, he also has heart problems now. Oh, wow. At the age of 25.
Yeah. So
I knew that was going to happen, too. And I was more worried about him when he got it versus myself. But to go back into oath, like I said, as long as I followed still to the T of what an oath was to me, or what it was, and able to still take care of myself, then I thought I was perfectly fine. I thought I was following what I needed to do. So
yeah, and like I mean, it's just it's one of those things too. You mentioned his health problem now. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means, but, it was so fresh and brand new. Nobody knew long-term effects of it. And so, I mean, it's just, it's crazy. Like, I see where they were coming from with it, but to mandate it for service at that time, I just think was crazy. But yeah, so that leads into the question of, do you think the military today, because, him and I joined in... right at the beginning of 2023, you were a year later?
Yeah, I was the end of 23, so...
Okay. So, like, we didn't have to get it. And it's no longer a requirement. I mean, I don't know what shots they put in me, I guess, when I went through. But, so do you think the military today allows that space for personal conviction while a new administration is trying to bring back that unity and cohesion?
I think there's a lot more people that are realizing from what happened during COVID. It was like, okay, we were pretty harsh on people and how we were handling with it during the administration and all that stuff. And now it's kind of like you still have your own voice, but you're still government property also. I guess I'm not too... How do I want to put this? I'm not very aware of what's going on now, because at that time, during that time, I kind of was like I don't care what other people think at that point, and I wasn't really invested too much in what people thought. And at that moment, like, I was already told I was unvaxxed. I didn't really have an opinion over anything. Yeah. So I guess I kind of took that and just said, well, I'm not going to say my opinion anymore then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. So we can kind of step out of this for a little bit. I'll kind of tie it together. So you got out of the Navy. How did you kind of navigate after that? Because you were on this ship or around this ship that was dry docked or whatever. Like what was your first course of action since you have been in this environment for the last almost 4 years?
So I went into the Navy knowing full well I was going to retire in the Navy. That was I was going to follow that through. The moment I got my D214 was the happiest yet the lowest part of my life. Yeah. Because all of my dreams of joining happened, but then also it came crumbling down because of that choice I made, which I don't regret my choice. I don't regret it at all. I don't regret anybody that made their choice of getting it or not getting it. I think the hardest part for me though was that how do I navigate after this, and how do I go a direction where I'm going to better myself? Because that was the end all be all for me was, well, I'm not retiring in the Navy. I'm not going to get all of that. So what am I going to do now? I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was going to do. And that 25-hour drive back home gave me a lot of time to think about what I was going to do. And even then, I still got home. I had no idea still. I bounced around. I found different things. I learned some things here and there, but nothing really stuck. It was kind of like I was missing that part of an oath, pretty much, that I was following. Like, I was missing part of that anywhere I went. So finding my own feet on the ground was pretty difficult during that time, I would say. Yeah,
so what jobs did you work right away?
I worked at an electrical company for a little bit of time, like maybe 3 months. Still, it just didn't feel right. I went to go work at a paper mill.
Oh, really?
For like 6 months, which, there's good benefits there. There's good pay there, but like the pay wasn't keeping me there.
Yeah.
Like, it was like I needed something that had good direction and order and to follow. Like kind of something like that. So I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. And then I left for a bit of time, and I'm like, what do I want? What do I want to do? Like, what's going to fulfill that one big spot in my life where I'm like, I need to follow something that is just for me, or like something like that. And then a job I didn't really expect to have, which I had for a bit of time, was working at a hospital for security, which has its own very interesting everything about it, I should say.
Yeah.
Which then filled that spot of I had a hierarchy of where I followed. I knew where I was in that hierarchy, and I followed it to a T, and I kind of brought it back to, this is my space, kind of my time, and slowly led into my future career now at some point.
Yeah, we'll step to that in a couple points here. Yep. So you worked security at a hospital.
Yes.
What was that kind of like?
What do you want to know about it?
Whatever you're willing to share, because I know personally from us talking that you have some interesting stories. So
okay, so to put it very plainly and very specific, very simple for some people, think of it as a little mini police department.
Okay,
that's pretty much what it was. We had uniforms, obviously. We had badges. I had a vest, like a little stab vest, like a little.
Oh wow.
Well,
yeah,
it's a hospital.
Yeah.
I also had a baton. I had a taser. I had handcuffs, and I was able to trespass people on property.
Okay.
And also make a citizen's arrest. I could also do. So, like I said, a little mini police department within the hospital. That's pretty much how I can sum it up as.
Yeah, so I can assume that there were probably some like tense situations, some crazy situations. Did your time in the military help with that at all? Like, especially going through, like boot camp and stuff, you're tested mentally on what you can handle. Do you think that kind of got you ready for that in a sense, or helped out?
So I would say yes on the aspect of physically.
Okay.
But preparing myself mentally for the amount of stuff that I had to encounter, not at all, not even the slightest. Like, I was going in fully knowing, like, oh, who would do some weird stuff at a hospital? I was proven wrong very quickly within the first 2 weeks I was there.
Yeah.
Because, at a hospital, you would think, like, why would there be security there? Like, why would security need to be there? The amount of mental health, drugs, and everything in a hospital is insane to me. I never thought of it as that. Yeah. There's been times where I have found many bags of drugs on people that I've searched. Mm-hmm. I thought I was exposed to some stuff also, which is very great. But yeah, you kind of get a step into what some police officers do in that aspect, because you still have to learn laws. You also have to learn HIPAA for all the hospitals. So you have to follow hospital policy, but also, the police, all the laws for the police department too, which I learned a lot between both of them. I had to navigate and also find certain ways of saying some things, because I can't just go up to somebody and be like, hey, you're doing this on hospital, like, you're under arrest. That's not how that works.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, do you have
any?
Yeah, how long were you in this job?
I would say a year and 6-7 months roughly.
Okay.
So you worked there for well over a year.
Yes.
What were some of the craziest, if you don't mind sharing, because I'm sure there was some crazy stuff that went down.
Okay. I'll go off of most heartfelt moment to most insane moment. So I'll go for heartfelt first. So there was a lot of times, and this is after I learned everything. I went through all the training program for the hospital and everything, so I was on my own. There was times where we knew when we had a certain patient that there was going to be issues, and most of the time they did happen. For me, I never wanted to physically put hands on someone. Like, I never really wanted to. Like, some people eat that up and be like, oh, let me just jump right in and just get right into it. Like, I'm definitely not that person. So one time, this was in the ER, and ER has a little mental area for like 6 patients roughly. And there was this adolescent that got brought in for, obviously I'm not going to disclose anything like that, but you can imagine if they're in the mental part of the ER, it's a little hard to navigate with that, because some people don't know how to navigate with adolescents, with mental health also. Like, some people get pretty uncomfortable with it. I quickly adjusted to it and actually thrived off of it, because a lot of these kids, like, some people just don't understand them, like, kind of all this stuff, and they do all these erratic things. They just kind of burst out into either tears, anger, fight, whatever, stuff like that. So there was this adolescent I got pretty familiar with. They had a lot of trauma in their life, and a lot of it stemmed out towards men. Which leads it to more, on the humbler side of the story, was I actually got to learn more about this adolescent, and kind of to learn, all the certain cues, the certain things that they were portraying, and how I need to tell the nurses, like, hey, we should probably do this because this is going to work for them. And most of the nurses are like, well, you're just a dumb security guy. Yeah. And I'm like, I may be, but also I'm not a nurse, so you're probably going to listen to me. And that was like the bridge, that was like the gap between patient and nurse, was us coming in to describe as a normal person, like, this is how it is. Like, I'm sorry, this is the way it is, but this is what's going to happen, as plain and simple as possible, versus the nurse explaining, oh, this is what meds we're taking, this, they're confused by what's being said, versus us being like, hey, you're getting this. Like, sorry, you don't have an option right now. So I quickly learned a lot of things about adolescence during that time, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
But also on the flip side of the more insane part of it, like I mentioned, we have tasers.
Yeah.
I didn't tase anyone.
Okay.
But I was pretty close to it. So in our mental health unit, that's more long term. There was this. Let's say he was at least between 14 and 17, so in between that range. 6'4". I'm 5'9".
Yeah.
I was by myself.
Oh gosh.
With a nurse, and they were really not listening to the nurses a lot, which we got called down more often, which then we had to deal with it, and a lot of times we couldn't really do much. There was this one time. This was 2 weeks before I left, by the way.
Going in with a bang.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. So I went down there, talked to the nurse, like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, oh, they're refusing meds. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I see this adolescent pick up their pillowcase, dump it. There's meds there was like at least 10 other different meds that were in the pillowcase. And I looked at the nurse. I'm like, so how long has this been happening? And they're like, well, we have no idea now. And I'm like, okay, well, he's not obviously they're not on their meds, so this is gonna be great. I walk in there, introduce myself, like, hey, I'm Blake with security. You know, I got called down because of this. You know, hey, what's going on? Like, trying to approach in an at least friendly manner. I got met with a bunch of cussing, telling me to get out of the room, and stuff like that. And they were cornered up against the wall, like in the corner. So it was, the corner of the room, there was a bed, I would say, a little mattress foam with like a plastic thing to sit on, pretty much. And they were sitting behind that, and I'm like, okay, he has nothing in his hands, nothing's going on, whatever, stuff like that. And I told him, like, hey, you need to take your meds. Like, hey, let's take your meds. He takes one big step over the bed, like, and he's in the corner. There's like maybe like a foot gap between the bed and then the bed. He stepped completely over it. And we do a lot of drills for pulling out or deploying tasers and stuff like that. I don't think I've ever drawn that fast on someone.
Yeah.
I was able to flip it on immediately.
Jeez.
And lined up my shot, and I told him, hey, you need to get back right now or you're going to get tased.
Yeah.
And then they followed it with, oh, you're going to tase a mentally unstable, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes, yeah. I will if you keep progressing the way you are. And then they stopped, sat down. And I think out of the over a year I've been there, that was probably the most intense moment I had. There's obviously been some times, but that one stuck out to me the most because it was just me and this nurse.
Yeah.
A lot of the other times I've been with other people. Like, I've seen people get bit. I've seen people get spit on. I've seen people get scratched. I've seen all these things. I've seen patients threatened they have a gun when they're on the floor, on the medical floor. And we had to call the SWAT team for that.
Oh, my.
And quickly learned they didn't have anything. But still made threats and a bunch of, I think there was some political stuff going on during that time that they were saying that they were like a terrorist and all this. Like, it was just a very not good time during that day because the hospital went on lockdown for that.
Oh gosh.
So, but I say that was intense because I had a lot of people with me to support me. That time, I had nobody there.
Yeah.
Nobody was coming to help me if I was going to get beat.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be pretty scary, pretty intense.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I don't know if you want to...
Do we want to transition here to another topic?
Yeah, well, I guess we can round out this one with... So, now you're in school. What do you kind of hope to do for work and then just in general in the future?
So, right now I'm going for criminal justice. And I want to aim on the same side of having to help adolescents or juveniles. So obviously it's going to take some time to do that, but I'd like to at some point get on a special victims unit or working with adolescents or juveniles, because to me I feel like being involved earlier in their life may also make them feel more comfortable to be with police officers or feel like it's safe to talk to a cop, because some some adolescents think it's dangerous to talk to them, and that if they talk to them, they're seen as, I'll put it as it is, snitches.
Yeah.
But for me, I want to be able to introduce that like safe space, I would say, with police and kids that are make them feel a little more comfortable with that, and also if I'm able to work on like the mental health side of it too. So
Yeah. No, that seems pretty honorable.
Yeah, and kind of fit that, you know, you talked about leaving the Navy and kind of trying to fill that hole that was left from that. So, no, I think it's awesome that, you know, you kind of found that now for yourself. So, with that, we'll transition a little bit. We'll tie it back into the military service a little bit, but I want to start off with the question of, do you think America is producing weaker men? And that's, you know, we can take that physically, mentally, or spiritually, or, you know, whatever your take is on that.
I'm going to say yes, physically and mentally. The expectations are very, very lax. And I know things are going to be changing soon with all that, but that's going to take a lot of time to get that adjusted. But for when I saw, again, relating back to when I was in, I saw a lot of people that were very unfit, and they just joined. I'm like, how did you join? Who did you have to bribe during boot camp to say that you are ready to be deployed to anywhere? Because a lot of these, I'm going to say kids because they were kids to me, they had nothing, they weren't even able to lift fire extinguishers onto the ship, I would say. Or they couldn't even crawl through like crawl spaces, which all Navy personnel were supposed to crawl through certain crawl spaces. Obviously people are like 6 foot whatever, but you're still able to at least make an attempt to. And I don't think maybe either of you have been on a ship before like that. So the doorways are probably about like this wide, just about. I've seen wider people that can't fit through those and they have to go through sideways.
Oh gosh.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It really is. And for the weaker side of men, for like mentality, I feel as though during boot camp, whether it be just the Navy or all across the military, I feel like there was a lot of hand holding and a lot of like people like just have kid gloves on, like, okay, let's do this instead, or like, hey, let me help. Like there's no like there was no yelling at people, I would say. Maybe that's changed now, but there was no like discipline, there was no stuff going on. Most people learn off of discipline. They learn off of failure. Like if you don't fail, now how do you know you're doing something right?
Yeah. And
it just leads to most of these people joining or going to get deployed with a unit or a ship or whatever, like, oh, I'm gonna just do this because this is what worked for me in boot camp. That's not how that works, though. Yeah. Because you got people who are very seasoned, and they look at this new generation of service members and be like, what are we doing wrong? Like, we can't even fix this. This is beyond us now. Like, why are we getting these amount of people that are mentally not fit, I would say, or physically not fit at all? And it's embarrassing for us as a nation and military.
Yeah. So saying that, you know, what role do you think our military can take to start correcting that and shaping these, you know, soldiers, sailors, airmen into what they need to be?
So obviously, I think most people who have been in long enough know that like they need to be physically fit and in shape. And I feel like some people also think like, well, I don't need to do this, so the whole unit doesn't need to do this. Like maybe some of the higher ups are kind of like, well, we don't need to do this. Like I'm fine with it. Like, or I just don't care, so I'm not going to care for my other soldiers or airmen or seamen or anything like that. I get a good direction would be at least a little bit of care in what's going on with those people that you are in charge of, and again, it relates back to what I was told in that classroom was they only care about people that were serving. I got told after I left that this captain was under investigation 11 different times, just in that command. 11 investigations were put on this captain, and I think they left, or they got placed somewhere else shortly after that. I got a call 2 days before I left from an unknown caller ID number, and I was asked various questions of what this captain did on the ship. And I quickly learned this was Washington calling me. I was basically being a witness and a victim at the same time, and I basically described the condition of the ship, what was going on, and all these things. I had to do all this, and I have no idea what happened with it. But I know something happened because they were no longer in command of that ship anymore. So, yeah, it's just, I think leaders need to actually take a step, not back, but they need to take a step forward into actually knowing what's going on with their younger soldiers or sailors or whoever.
Yeah, I mean, weak leaders are only going to make weak, I shouldn't say followers, but the people under them.
Yes.
Like, nobody's going to be strong. The force isn't going to be strong if the people at the top aren't. So, yeah, I think that that's a good anecdote, because I think people are seeing that everywhere. So, and not even just in the military, but in, the workplace, in civilian life and all that. So,
yeah, so, the big question now is kind of, what would you say to someone who's thinking about joining the military today, like right now?
If you even have the thought of joining, go ask a recruiter. Don't just go talk to one branch. Go talk to all the branches, because some people are just like, oh, this is what I'm going to be, I don't know, I'm going to be a Green Beret. Yeah. Like, I hear that too, and I'm like, go talk to all the recruiters, because they all have their own little spiel what to give, but also you have to think about it like, if you're going to join Space Force, you should really maybe go talk to them instead of kind of like, you go talk to all of them, even if you're not interested in them. Everybody has their own different history or different cultures of how they want to pitch it. Like I was pitched when I went to the recruiting station. The Navy one stuck up to me the most, because when I walked into the recruiting office, like they had all the different historical things, like all these different historical portraits or anything like that, and I spent a lot of time looking at them while I was in that recruiting office, and it kind of got me more hooked into joining at that point, because a lot of the different offices had their own history, and the Navy just stuck out for me the most. And I think for anybody who's wanting to join, definitely just talk to any recruiter, even if you aren't even very interested in it. If the thought come across your mind, just go talk to one to see what it is and what it entails. Yeah. Don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. We'll ask a couple more questions here before doing like a quick lightning round, and then we'll probably wrap it up after that. So, what is the biggest lesson, and maybe we kind of already covered this earlier, but what would you say the biggest lesson that your service taught you, whether that be leadership, loyalty, courage, maybe, just, and it doesn't even have to relate to like why you got out, but just anything?
I think just, if you have a group of people that you're with and they're unsure, be that person that kind of like guides them in that direction. For me, definitely leadership was a big thing for me, because I was an E4, so I was some sort of leadership there. I had to take care of some people, but like for me, like being able to teach new sailors how to do something gave me enough drive to still keep going, even when I was getting out still. I wanted to at least bridge that gap with new sailors that have no idea what's going on, and to the most veteran ones, like, this is how it is. Like, I wanted to gap that as much as close that gap as much as possible. So for me, I think I learned a lot about leadership and like teaching moments or teaching points to kind of take away from certain things, and it has allowed me to do that even at the hospital when I was working there, because there was a lot of new people that joined, and I kind of took away what I learned was you need to be a strong leader to be able to teach these new people what to do. Because if you can't do that, they're gonna fall so many times, and you're not gonna be able to help them because maybe they think like, oh, nobody's gonna help me. I'm hopeless.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Do you have one that you want to ask from this section?
Yeah. What do you think civilians or non-service members misunderstand the most about military life or about the military in general?
As much as like people think like, this is gonna be a little funny, like, oh, I punch a drill instructor, all that like, first of all, I'm gonna say this, you will not, because they will mess you up at that point. But in all honesty, it's not. Some people can be a little bit of a hard ass with a lot of people, but it's in good faith. You should not be scared of doing something. Like, if you're doing something and it's wrong, people are going to correct you, whether it be in a nice way or not so nice way, but you're going to get corrected. You're going to learn very quickly. Like, people are going to have your back regardless of whatever happens, even if they don't even like you.
Yeah. They're
still going to have your back and tell you, like, hey, this is what you need to do. Like, you know, you need to fix yourself or stuff like that. And somebody's else going to come up and be like, hey, you know, are you good? You know, people are always going to have your back. It's not like cutthroat and like everybody's against each other and all that, which I feel like some people may take it that way, as like you just have to learn on your own. But they're a reason why they are leaders too, because they have good attributes to lead those people.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that from my own personal experience as well.
Well, yeah, even when I joined, I thought I was kind of getting an idea of what it would be like. But once you're there, it's completely different than what you think it is from the outside. And then you're there and it's completely different.
Because I think most of us guys who join, like, watch the movies.
Yeah.
And it's very, like very bro on bro, like all this stuff like that, or like very like, like super serious. But in reality, it's never that way. Like there is that bro and bro kind of moments, but it's more of like joking around, having fun and stuff like that. It's not very like, you're getting shot at like 24/7.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, like, I don't think a lot of people even think about it. It's still like a workplace environment. Mm-hmm. You're still working. It's still a job.
You still got people who sit in offices and like type their life away pretty much.
I mean, deploying is a little bit different, but just your every day-to-day life in the military, I mean, you're just doing a job that somebody needs to fulfill. But anyway, so we're getting close to that hour mark, so we'll do a quick lightning round of kind of like
No, I want to ask one more.
Oh, he has
yes.
I want to ask how your faith and worldview from your experience with the military and then now after, how did it make it change? Like, where were you at then compared to where you're at now?
So back then I felt pretty lost with a lot. Like, I am a Catholic. I used to go to church a lot, but as soon as I joined the Navy, I never went. I guess I never cared about my faith at that moment, which then led me to, when I left, felt lost, completely lost, didn't know any direction at all whatsoever. And I mean, just recently, like, I've been studying, at least learning a little bit more about my faith, what's going on, and I feel like I still, even when I left, I feel like I still haven't fully healed from it, even though it's been almost 3 years now, actually. So it's been about 3 years since I've been out, so I feel like I'm still learning how to navigate and also heal, but I'm getting there at this point.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So real quick, what's your favorite branch of the military other than the Navy?
I'm not gonna say Coast Guard because that's pretty much the Navy. I can't say Marines because it's also part of the Navy. So I get two options. I would say if I had to pick one, I'd say the Air Force probably.
Okay.
But I would pick Marines only because they're dress uniforms.
Yeah, they are pretty cool.
They're pretty good, I would say. But
you wanna?
So I'm gonna take this not as favorite, but one that I would join, the Space Force, solely like for the Air Force lifestyle, but with just with that little bit of like mystique about it, just because it's still so new. I talked to the base commander for up here, North
Space Force.
Of the Space Force base or whatever you want to call it, north of Grand Forks. I talked to the commander and the senior enlisted, and I mean it was just the senior enlisted guy had the biggest mustache I've ever seen on anybody in the military, and we went back and forth a little bit just like we were normal people, and like I mean just the way they explained their branch, I mean it just sounded awesome.
For when we first got told there was going to be a Space Force, we made so much fun of it. Like I was like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
I didn't know, but now it's like, all right, I guess you're here now. So
I mean they do stuff, but I mean, do they even know what they're doing all the
exactly.
time? I don't even know.
They got accepted a little bit easier than I thought they would.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of like people. It's a lot of Army and Air Force guys,
right,
I guess, that make it up. So.
Yeah. Are we asking me now?
Yeah.
I want to say kind of for like the meme, the Coast Guard, but I also do think that they do cool stuff. Like you see them like fighting like drug pirates and stuff. Like that's pretty cool. Like you see them jumping on those little mini drug submarines and they're like, banging on the like hatch, and they're like, like I think that's kind of cool.
I remember watching that video specifically when it came out. We were sitting on the barge. And a bunch of us were sitting around, we watched this video, like played it over and over, and we all looked at each other like, what are we doing?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think they get enough credit for what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any quick, fun question?
No, not really.
I mean, I think that was a good one to kind of end it on. As we're wrapping up, what message do you want to send to people serving today, still in the military?
I think my message would be to go back in history and relearn a lot of things that have happened, because there is a reason why people have been trained the way they've been trained, and history has taught a lot of things throughout our own nation itself. And I feel like a lot of people are slowly losing that interest, slowly losing that history part of it, and they just need to revisit and go back on tradition.
Yeah.
And that's why we still are a very powerful military. But I feel like now we've probably been the weakest we've ever been, as to compared to like right after 9/11, I would say. Like at that moment of time, we were pretty heavy into a lot of stuff. Even before 9/11, we were pretty heavy in a lot of things, but now it's slowly dying off, and I feel like people are just getting way too relaxed than what it needs to be right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And like, I mean, I see it a little bit more now. Training is starting to be, focused more on kind of those like adversaries, more like what we are as a military, rather than small bands of terrorists. So I think they're going to start moving more towards that. But 100%, I don't think people take it as seriously as it needs to be taken, because anything could happen like that. And that's kind of what we need to be, is ready at all times for that. So final question: how can our listeners connect with you and follow your story?
If you guys have me again, I'm sure I'll tell you a lot more. But otherwise, I mean, I don't know, maybe some people might see me on campus. I have no idea. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So do you have anything else to add kind of before we wrap it up?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, yeah, I had a lot of fun. I thought this was an interesting one. Definitely different than the last couple that we've done. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, thank you a lot for coming on and kind of having this conversation with us. It was a good one. And, I like, there's been a lot of different conversations we've had on here, and it's, each one gets me thinking a little bit about, something different. So I really enjoy that. So
yeah, that's kind of the point. So yeah. So again, thank you for coming on. Thank you, of course, and thank you guys for listening. Bye.